All right, welcome to the Sci-Fi Express Lane. This is Jeff Carroll, writer, pioneer of some type of hip-hop, sci-fi, I don't know, whatever I call what I'm doing. But writer, comic book, filmmaker, novelist, you name it, game creator. I want to talk to you about kind of something that's been progressing as a topic, and that is the generational demographics of science fiction and comic books. Man, that's a reality. This is what do you call it? Live. I'm in the middle of my life. I'm out here pushing a comic book and writing science fiction as it is. I'm not just a speaker. I'm actually I'm living what I'm talking about. And dang, I think the air is gonna get too hot on this camera. So what I'm doing while I'm doing all this is learning. I'm trying to find out what's going on, sell my comic books, sell my novels and stuff. And the wild thing is the demographics have shifted, and it's an interesting shift. So like when you're pitching a comic book, or when people, even publishers, think of comic books, many times they think of young people. People think of comic books for young people, and that's right. However, the young people that read comic books are now in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s. And that's who reads comic books. So when we talk about who you're writing your comic books for, there's a generational downslope. It's not that you're not going to find an 18-year-old, a 17, 16, 20-something-year-old reading comic books, but they buy their comic books different. So I had a conversation yesterday with a film festival producer and a filmmaker, and today I had a conversation with my local comic book guy. And it's important, so it's important to talk to a lot of people when you have an idea. And for me, I'm in the middle, or I'm a writer, right? So many times it starts with the production, the producers of whatever project it is, and it ends up at the store for the consumer to get. And when you talk to those different poles, many times you'll see that they don't know what each other are talking about, or they don't always understand each other's roles. So my film festival guy and I were talking about conversations about what producers are looking for and publishers, right? And we were talking about, there were no comic books around when my father was young. My father was born in 1930s. There weren't no comic books around for him as it is, well, at least there weren't in comic book stores. You bought them off of newsstands. You got them in the back of newspapers. And it wasn't like what we have now. We have 100, 200 comic books coming out a month, or more, series going 8 and 10, and ongoing series 35, 40 books deep, trade paperbacks of comic books, 100 pages, 200-page mangas. No, that wasn't around when my father was there. It was also new. So he didn't grow up with a father that read comics, and I didn't grow up with a father that read comic books. He took me to the comic books, and yes, the comic books were for young people because we were young. Now, I still read comic books. I forgot to get my spread, right? I got 2 of the comic books here that I'm reading now, right? But I'm 55, and I'm still reading them. And if I'm buying them, then somebody is making money off of me as a demographic. And what is my demographic? 55, 60, 40-year-old, 40 and over, 30 and older. I don't know what that demographic is. All I know is it's very hard to go to a publisher and say, I'm writing for this demographic. But when I go to talk to the comic book store, he tells me that young people don't buy these little comic books anymore. They don't buy these. Most of them are collectors, and they buy them for the hot first issue and for it to go up in value. It's almost like the lottery. You're buying lottery tickets because eventually the price will go up. But he said young people are buying the trades. They are dealing with the economics of a comic book costing $4.99. And, if it's a 6-book series, 4 times 6 is 24, right? So, you save money when you get the trade for like $20. And you get, if the book goes 5 books, you're saving a lot of money. And then some of them read them digitally. Manga is a big digital a platform. So people are reading them digitally. So who's buying these comic books? Who is this audience? And a lot of it is older people. Yes, there were young people that bought them, but those young people are now in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and they're still buying them. So it just makes me think of what is the disconnect sometimes when you go to pitch a story and they ask you what the demographics are, and you say, 30, 40, 50, because the language and the story elements are different when you are talking to people that are 30 plus and even 20 and older. Many times these guys want you to have a young people market. And mind you, young people are not only, what's a young people comic book? Ninja Turtles, right? Young people are not just gargoyles. For me, the gargoyle story is very young. I'm not interested in it. I want a older story. I want, like Daredevil. I want to give some teeth. I want one of these different Batmans. And as you see, I'm reading Planet of the Apes. These are young people who don't even know what Planet of the Apes are. Especially in this logo font is the modern one. It was a movie. It wasn't that much of a hit. It was a hit, but it wasn't like the old Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes, which was groundbreaking, still talked about to this day, classic. That's what we're getting. When I'm getting David Walker written, right? I gotta give shout out to David Walker. Planet of the Apes, I'm buying it because I saw the old black Planet of the Apes, right? So it just is interesting to see those that demographic challenge. It also makes you, as a writer and a self-published guy, you have to think about how you're going to put these comic books out there. It also makes you think that, where do you sell the comic books? Because yes, comic conventions are there, but you have these older people that come. Many times they're resistant of their like. Many times they'll push their kid to the table, and then when you say, oh, it's an adult comic, now you're talking porn. And that's a different demographic. Where are the adult stories, or the stories that older children from the 80s, the 70s will like, that talk about some of these older things. Like when you see Rodney Barnes, he did The Warriors meets Evil Dead or something like that. Young people barely know what The Evil Dead is. It was one movie for them, but it was classic for the 90s and the 80s generation. 80s and 90s kids, yeah, I had to tell a kid what American Werewolf in London was. He didn't even know. It's classic. It's inspired all of these modern werewolf stories, or it's one of the werewolf stories that these modern werewolf stories take inspiration from. So it's just interesting, all of these different things, and just thinking about how our parents, or the parents who were the children in the 40s and 50s, 20s, it was in the 20s, were not really able to enjoy comics the way we enjoy them now. They were, they grew up and they had kids in the 60s. And those kids are the ones that read the comics in the 70s, So to them, the comics were for kids. And then, you had other kids that didn't really get into them. So they grew up and it was sports, they were playing sports. They kind of never got a chance to read the comics. And now the comics are just overwhelming. It's just crazy to be able to still be into comics. And I wasn't even a big time comic book reader. I don't even think I'm big time now, because I see people with 30 books a month. I'm a 5 book a month, 6 book a month guy, but that's still a $24 habit, right? That's a $24 magazine, $30 magazine subscription. So like today, I think I went $35. And sometimes I'm buying that, a couple of times a month, because some of the books don't always come out. So it's just interesting to think of comic books and generations as a separate conversation, because I'm telling you, I have a comic book that I'm shopping around with an Akira inspired cover. And the story is sort of like Akira, but it's only in the setting. It's post-apocalypse, and that's it. And they ride bikes, motorcycles, but that's it. There's some similarity stops there. But it's interesting because when I pitched it, I did not put the target age, the demographics, because I think it will give my generation a chance to try a manga book, as well as attract the younger manga readers. And that's real. So how do you put everybody as your target audience? Who is my main target audience? Probably me, right? Probably somebody like me, but I'm 55, so I can't put a 55, 40 plus market demographics. The publishers don't know, because when they don't go to the stores to see who buys the comics, they won't realize it's older people that's buying the comics. Of course, digital sales are different, but, they track comic book print sales as well. Comic book print sales are still a very important, sale. So it's not that, overall sales are there, but the print sales, the comic book stores are still the more important of the sales. You don't even need a publisher to go digital, and there's a lot of platforms that you can sell your digital comics on. I'm very lazy with that because I'm still old-fashioned, But anyway, I just wanted to talk about the change in demographics, or not even the change in demographics, just demographic realization, because the demographics are true. We just don't know what they are, and we just make assumptions, and the demographics are different. So that's it. All right. You get a chance, like my page, subscribe, and share to your friends this topic, demographics and comics, or make a comment if you think I'm right, or even if you think I'm wrong, make a comment. And also, give me topics. So like, subscribe, share, and comment, and give me comments that, if you got another question, say, Jeff, you made me think of this, because this is where I get my stuff from conversations that I had from people. So anyway, thank you. Sci-Fi Express Lane out. Peace.